I'm VP of Engagement, John Collins.
And I'm CTO Howard Holton.
And this week, we'll try and cut through the jargon and give you what you need to make sense of it all. In this case, we're going to be talking about observability. So let's do it. We almost got through that intro.
That was pretty close, yeah. Our producer cut you off a little bit on the little video intro, but otherwise, I think that was pretty good.
No, I don't. Yeah. I think the worst thing you can do when you actually succeed at something is then talk about the fact you've actually succeeded at something. But there we go.
Someone in the comments gives us a little card by the French judges.
I think we should get that. I think we should get
2 out of 5. Yeah. That'd be fine.
Yes. Nul point. Zero.
Yes, but if you're going to do that, you have to have the smoking as well.
Nul point. By the way, that's a tennis ball on the back of my chair, so I don't literally brain myself. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how we fixed our chairs. We're here to talk about observability, which has become a huge, big, buzzy term in the world of technology operations management, if I can call it that. And it means wonderful things. The funny thing I always think about observability, a lot of terms in technology, they arrive because the alternative is just too horrendous to contemplate. So a lack of observability is kind of, oh my goodness, we're all struggling with this. And nope, we've sorted it, we've got observability. So where are we on the observability scale from 0 to observable, Howard?
I think since you used a sound for perfection, I'm going to use a sound for where we're at, and it's wah wah wah.
That's not a good sound.
No, most of the stuff I see in observability is about telling me what the tools in my stack are doing, but it's really just telling me what the tools in my stack say they are doing, and that's not actually what I need, right? I have the same issue with cloud native, which is really what we're monitoring with observability more than we are kind of VMs, that I did with VMs, right? How many times did you have a customer call and go, hey, the application's not working correctly, it's slow today for some reason. You get in and, oh, the CPU looks good and the network doesn't look busy and the disk doesn't look agitated and the disk queues are empty and you don't know what's going on, right? And you kind of have to dig through all the stuff. Thankfully, it's at least contained within, one box, right? You can generally identify, oh, this web server is running slow. Let's see why. Now we got to troubleshoot that web server. When it's containers in cloud native, it's significantly more complex because it is distributed across a wide swath of things, all of those things trying to do their own kind of jobs. If observability just says, oh, well, your Kubernetes says it's doing this, and oh, well, the server that it's installed on says it's doing this, that doesn't really help me. What I need instead is, if this says it's doing this and this says it's doing this, what's happening in between? Right? What is this plus this equal? It's an equation, not these standalone things. And most of them just go, well, this is a 7 and this is a 4, and 7 and 4 seem like they're okay. But the reality is a config changed over here that added pressure that's not showing up on either of these things, right? Or a config changed here that isn't adding pressure to this service, but it's causing the interchange here to stop working.
I mean, this does go right back to when I was a programmer, which is, I always seem to say, which was a jolly long time ago. Everything I did that was ever real was a jolly long time ago. But the best bugs were always the ones that were in more than one thing. So it wouldn't just be a grammar error in a piece of code and you go, well, I fixed it now. So it would be that an error in one piece of code would cause the wrong data to go to another piece of code, which would then manipulate it in the wrong way and send it to another piece of code. And then that other piece of code would send it back to somewhere else, and that other place would then fail to deliver something. But everything before that looked like it was working perfectly well. Is that what you're saying? I mean, sorry, I'm probably saying, is this an example? It's not the one thing.
Example, right? So my configuration was a valid configuration for the container. So the container is operating. My network configuration is a valid configuration. So the network is operating. and the configuration doesn't strain the network resources, so I have plenty of available bandwidth. However, what if I've constrained it in a way that the application cares about, and the application's not smart enough to tell me? So the resources all look fine from looking at the system resources from whatever system I'm looking at, and yet I've constrained it in a way that it's no longer operating the way it needs to be operating. Right? That's what I need observability to tell me. And the truth is, as we get into these things, observability, and I would say anything with an ops also, these things are incredibly complicated, right? And if you're building the tools to do that, it's a $100 million investment. No one's going to give you a $100 million investment and say, hey, wait till you're done before you sell it. No investor's going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to start seeing today, like right now, right? And so you have to start selling it as soon as you have something to say. It doesn't mean that you're going to say, this is complete, this is finished, right? And so you kind of have to go to market a little bit too early in my mind, a little bit too immature. Otherwise, you don't get funding, right? We can't.
I'd possibly say a little bit too specific. I mean, because some of the use cases, just case studies I've seen on observability that they're quite good. We've written up some, but where, for example, you can find out very interesting things about your resource allocation, and you find out that you're wasting 20% of resources, and you switch that off, and you save $100,000 in a year, and happy days. But it's the generalization of that, isn't it?
But that's actually where the problem lies. Okay, so many, I'm going to say many, I'm going to try to not use absolutes when I speak, but many of the products that are available in the observability space have huge value for most organizations, right? Today, right now, because if you're not using observability platforms, you're wasting resources. And so they do allow you to start looking at those resources and finding places to regain efficiency, or finding places where there's simple misconfiguration that is causing problems, right? All of that is true. However, that's all like day one low-hanging fruit, right? Once that's done, until you spin up a new application, that thing kind of is at rest, right? So like, let's say somebody told you today, Mr. CIO, I need you to cut 10% of your cloud budget because we're coming up on 2024, and you're going to get 10% less dollars for cloud next year. So you got to cut 10%. It's basically 1st of October, right? I mean, we're still early October, so you have a quarter. I would launch observability, and by January 1, you could cut your cloud costs probably by 15%. Okay, cool. If they then told you to do it again in 2025, be prepared. You're going to do it again in 2025? No. Low-hanging fruit's gone. I can get 2%, but I can't get, there's no way I'm getting another 10%. Right? And that's kind of where I see the problem. All of the tools today, enough of them, are really good at finding you that first 10%, because you're going from 0 to a managed state. And every time we do that with anything we do, we find efficiency, right? We always instantly manage the low-hanging fruit. Right? Like when we first did virtualization, and you couldn't oversubscribe anything, and you couldn't, like, there was no way to manage efficiency. And really, the early versions of GSX and ESX had no way to really monitor the hardware to any decent potential. We still got huge gains in efficiency, right? Just by better utilizing the hardware that we had from no virtualization to virtualization. Almost immediately, though, we hit the wall and went, okay, now where do we go from here? We've got all kinds of other problems, but we can't see them.
I think this is a familiar pattern. It's a kind of anti pattern, so I'll call it a pattern, which is right now there's so much complexity, there's so much excess cost, that just solving for some of that is seen as an answer. And actually it's not, although it is, because it's...
Both of those are correct, yes. It's both not and is.
It's both not and is.
We don't want to waste money, but it's not because it doesn't solve the root of the problem, which is giving us better understanding of how these things are actually working and what happens in between the big blocks that still needs to be correct for each thing to not cause a domino effect.
Mm,
They're
yeah,
not
and
solving for the domino effect, and that's really what I need to know.
it's because an adage I love to throw into every other blog report, whatever, is if you can't measure, you can't manage, which is great. But I'm gonna throw in the antithesis of that, which is measurement is not management. It,
Well,
it gets you the ability to start managing, and your point is, yeah, but just being able to say, well, that's what it looks like right now, doesn't actually give you a drive onto making sure that it's dynamically changing over time, and you're then in a better position to be agile, if you want to put it in that term.
so one of the things I always love to ask, vendors would come in to sell me something, some program. Hey, everybody's doing this. You need to do this. Cool. What does good look like for that? What does good?
Mm.
Forget the product. What does good look like for the space? Right. Okay. Cool. You're going to help me develop my data science practice. Great. Let's start with what does good look like for a quality best practice data science practice. How should that run? How should that look? Give me some idea, like operating model, number of people for my organization. What does like a general workflow look like? What are some of the outcomes I can get? And what is the best practice design for those outcomes? And what you hear is crickets. I got to find a button on my thing for crickets.
I
Right?
I can see the squirm. I can see
Right.
someone going,
Okay, so data science is really hard. Very few people are profitable. Great, fine. How about security? Give me a map of what it looks like for good enough. What does good enough look like? Okay, we just came up with XDR. Where does that fit? What does that displace? What does that fit? What does that cover? What are the layers of Swiss cheese, if you want, right? What does good enough look like? At what point can I say I've spent my money well? I've done good enough for the dollars that I have this year. Great. I get a new budget next year. We'll do some more stuff next year, right? No. Nobody has that. We're just flinging shit at the wall, hoping a customer will buy it. And the reality is that's what we need kind of every step of the way. If I don't understand what good enough is, then I don't have a North Star to aim for. And I'm just spackling and sticking holes in a dike. And that's kind of the problem with observability. Yes, if I can't measure, I can't manage. At the same time, how do I validate that I'm measuring the right thing?
I'm very, very close and dangerously close to stepping onto my why I hate maturity models sandbox. So I'm definitely not going to do that. But there's one thing I will say about them: they don't work.
I'm happy to
For
join you
that
on that
exact
sandbox,
reason.
by the way.
Huh?
I'm happy to join you on that sandbox.
Oh, it's okay. The trouble with maturity models is no one ever gets past stage 2, and if they do, they get to stage 2, and then the world changes. And
that's not my
they're just a great to your point. The reality of what good looks like is fine if someone could explain it. The aspirational view is the maturity model level 4, 5, which depending on which version you look at, and that makes it look like the aspirational view is actually what you're asking for. Someone could show you one of those and say, well, that's what good looks like. And the answer is no, it doesn't, because no one ever gets there. That's what I don't like about it.
And that's ultimately the problem. Well,
yeah.
but also no one designs a maturity model based on a real organization. Right? A maturity model is designed based on this utopian view of technology that doesn't exist anywhere for anybody, which is why no one can get past 3.
Yep.
Right? And that's not true. There are people that get past 3. However, they were already a 5 when the maturity model was created. You know what I mean? And so they arbitrarily fit in the 5 box, but they could never mature to that again.
And it's something else I've learned about organizations that repeatedly appear in vendor slides. They actually have part of the organization that has a certain name, probably internally, the looking cool part of the organization. The organization itself does not function like that, but they're constantly the kind of gold standard of this and early adopter of that, and the kind of, look at all the money they saved on the other. But the rest of the organization does not operate like that. So it's playing on both sides. It's the vendors saying, well, yeah, here's perfection and aspiration, and then here's someone who's doing it, and it's always the same people as well, and they often then end up working for either the vendor or becoming an analyst because they just like strutting around on stage. So it's kind of.
Excuse me, sir. Who doesn't love strutting around on stage?
I mean,
there is nothing. If you can make a career of strutting around on stage, there is a guy who wrote a security book that is so out of date, it's not even funny, 15, 20 years ago, who still gets paid $50,000 to strut around on stage. That is good. That is a good gig.
Now that's unfair. That's unfair because getting paid $50,000 to strut around on stage, yeah, I'm there.
Oh yeah, sign me up every day. No, no, I'll strut around on stage for free. Like it's fine.
Yeah. I'd do it twice,
right,
on the same day.
That's true. That's true. You could absolutely. There's a lot you could do to me on stage for $50,000. I'm just saying.
Oh dear, this is where the term observability takes a bit of a turn.
So yeah, it's you still have to observe the right things, and that would clearly be the wrong thing.
Yeah, the wrong things to observe. I'm gonna. Yeah. So maturity models, aspiration, strutting around on stage. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anyone that's seen me, I do actually have a bit of a good time strutting around on stage. So it's not about that. It's more the fact that everything in the organization was geared up towards the bling, if you like, the kind of the press
how many
release.
times have you seen a senior executive at a large organization go to the organization, move to pick your hyperscaler, talk at the hyperscaler's 3 conferences, and then go work for the hyperscaler 2 years later, and then the company says we've had massive overruns in cost?
I would love to do that piece of research. I mean, really kind of forensic research
it's the song of our people at this point.
On that,
right? The number of times you hear this kind of thing repeated over and over again, and it's like guys, come on, it's ridiculous. And I was having a conversation yesterday. Stop showing me your ideal customer, and then stop thinking that they're actually at all relevant to the rest of the market. Right? Mm-hmm. We've talked to our customer, but that's the customer you had on stage. The one customer where it went really spectacularly good and they were willing to get on stage and talk for you, they're never going to tell you the truth, or very seldom going to tell you the truth. And they're so unlikely to be representative of the whole market. Stop basing everything off of them. Right?
We need observability onto the customer stories.
We do. And frankly, customers need to wake up and realize a lot of the things we do because the last person did it without really understanding why. And we probably need to take a minute and understand, why are we doing this? What is the purpose behind it? Is it what we should be doing? And if not, what should we be doing instead? Right.
So I want to go back to about 15 steps, if I may, because at the beginning of this, you said complexity. And I'm a big fan of open telemetry, just because it's open and it's telemetry. And just that when I first started talking to organizations involved in that project, it was just, how deep can you go and how complex can it get? And it was really interesting about the amount of data that you're trying to pull together and how you're trying to pull together the logs and the traces and everything else. And so I guess I don't know if I've got a question there, but it's kind of the rod for our own backs that we've created by wanting to get this stuff right in the first place, because everything can be measured, everything is being measured, and you go into a bit of an AI opsy land of we're just measuring too much, and that's causing a major part of the problem anyway. I'm just wondering, riffing a little bit, but where do we go with this when literally we're trying to measure everything to the nth degree in the first place, and how much is that causing a problem to observability?
Well, I think it causes a huge problem to observability, right? If all that I do is bury you in data, at some point that just becomes noise because I don't know what to do with it, right? Data that is not actionable is noise, period, end statement. If I can't take action on it, it's just noise. Mm-hmm. And the job of observability should be to minimize and mitigate the noise, not create more. I do want to comment on your open telemetry thing. I will say today, right now, if you're not participating in open telemetry as a vendor, you're failing horribly, and you should be put out to pasture. And if as a customer, you're not buying something that supports open telemetry because it doesn't do everything that you want to do, you're also failing as a customer. We need these standards, and we need these standards to evolve, and that means we all have to take a hit. As a vendor, you have to take a hit and participate in something that may not do everything that you want, but by participating, you're going to help to make it better.
And it is broadening,
in improving it and evolving it. And as a customer, the same thing is true. You have to participate in these open standards, or they will fracture and die, and then you're right down into the pit of nothing works with nothing again. Right? And so you kind of have to take the hit on both sides and go, yes, OpenTelemetry doesn't do everything I need to do today. And yes, OpenTelemetry is complex today. And yes, OpenTelemetry will tell me exactly how many gnats have moved through my data center in any particular second. However, trust that the more people that join OpenTelemetry, the more people that participate in the system, the more eyeballs you have, the more solid use cases will come out of it, and the faster and better it will evolve into, until it is something that is useful for all of us.
And there is an opportunity to, I mean, it's the standing on shoulders of giants, or standing on the shoulders of 1,000 ants, a billion ants, when you're thinking about the OpenTelemetry space, and not trying to solve the same problem. There's only got to be only so many ways to collect data. That shouldn't be the value add. The value add should be the noise reduction, should be the discernment. In the middle of everything that you were saying, I was wondering whether we should stop talking about observability as a thing and start talking about actionability as the actual thing that we're aiming for.
Right. I like that idea. The idea of actionability. Right? Because observability isn't really the value. The value isn't this thing was dark and now it is lit. Right? Unlike what we told our producer before this started, right? Computers don't work better because you put LEDs in them and now they can work in the light instead of work in the dark.
You said they did.
I know. I was full of crap. But observability is the same way, right? Observability is kind of the same way, right? Shining a light on what was previously dark has very, very limited value. If you can't tell me what should I be paying attention to in the light and what action should I take now that it is lit, right? It just becomes more noise. And frankly, I'm probably better off being ignorant, because there is already so much noise happening that I can't deal with, that I don't have the number of people to deal with, right? So how do we make sure that this stuff is actionable? How do we make sure that this stuff is valuable and valid? And I would start by asking questions of the vendor, right? Okay, cool. You're going to shine this light for me. How do I know the light that you're shining is going to point me in the right direction? How do I make sure that it's not just noise? How do I make sure that the actions bubble up to the top? How quickly can I get to the actionable things that I can fix? Versus how much of this can you tell me is not fixable? I looked at there's a security product that I looked at. I'm not here to pitch products, so I'm not going to say their name. But I did a briefing, and one of the things that they did that I thought was really, really cool was they just kind of give you all the vulnerabilities. Okay, cool. Here's this enormous list of vulnerabilities. And then they go, hey, we're going to now turn off all the ones that have no fix. You can still find them. You can still see them, but you can't do anything about them because they're not fixable. There's no patch for them. So we're just going to turn all those off. So you can just focus on the ones that need to be fixed. And oh, by the way, we're going to automate fixing the ones that can be fixed if you really want us to do that. So
still worry, but worry first about the stuff you can change.
Correct. But it's kind of it's
the nun's prayer, isn't it? Or whatever. Yeah. Lord, give me the grace to fix the vulnerabilities that I can fix, and worry a bit less about the ones that I can't.
Yes, hopefully our producer is currently Googling that, and we'll throw it up in chat, and then we can riff on that for a minute.
Quote it properly. I mean that's I could take us down a rat hole. So we live next to some woodland, and there are rats in the woodland. And if you go out with a torch at night and you do shine a light onto certain parts of the woodland, you'll see the rats vanish. I mean, not very often. You might see a squirrel vanish, you might see a deer vanish, but generally there's a lot of wildlife out there that tries to get out of the way of the light pretty damn fast. So the rat hole I was on was how much shining of the light actually causes other problems as things try to get out of the way of it. But I don't know if that fully maps onto what we're talking about here, but I just thought I'd share.
Yes. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
There you go. Or get a tool.
Serenity prayer. And so that's what I want. I want a tool. I want all of my tools, all of my advanced tools, to be the serenity prayer. Right? Give me the courage to change the things I can, the ability to ignore the things I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the tool really should be the wisdom. And I think if you can do that, and if you can talk about it that way, look, these are the things we can change today. These are the things we can help you with today, right now.
Mhm.
And hey, these are the things that we think are important to help you with in the future. And this is how we think we're going to go about it.
My goodness, I think you've invented a new product category. It's called Serenity Tools. It's literally, it comes with an inbuilt methodology and a training program.
And every time you launch the application, it takes 4 minutes because it walks you through a little thoughtful meditation.
Breathing exercise.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think that'd be good. We need less instant response and more thoughtful response.
I'm there. I'm literally, yeah. Can I get Serenity for my email?
It has its own. It has a custom wrist rest that you must rest your wrists on. That takes your heart rate until your heart rate drops. It doesn't give you any data.
Yeah. I can see the product. I can see the table stakes. I can see the key functions.
Oh yeah.
I can literally spec it out.
If there are any investors that are listening to us, I can see the pitch deck. Just reach out and give me a call.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I've got nothing to add. I was going down into the woodland and into the dark and shining lights on bad things, but no, I want serenity every time.
Yeah, I mean the reality is that's what we all need, right? Things are not going to be less complex, and I think where we reach the failure points is we reach the failure points where we are ill-equipped to deal with the complexity that something new foists upon us, right? So I think that's kind of what we need to look for and what we need to pay attention to, right? How it's not chaos. Chaos is the wrong way to look at it, right? It's complexity. Right? How do you help me make the complex simple? And then how can I trust your simple explanation of the complex? Because I don't understand it well enough to actually check your work. And if I have to understand it well enough to check your work, I probably don't need you. Right? And
it's the other way lies madness, right? You can't manage every molecule in the universe. So
and for those thinking that they can roll their own, if you're in the Fortune 20, I'll give it to you. Sure, roll your own. If you're not in the Fortune 20, why? It's not your business. Focus on what's core to your business, and lean on partners to deliver the rest. Like seriously. And I don't mean I'm not an advocate of outsourcing, right? But I do mean there are well-funded companies investing in the observability space. There are well-funded companies investing in the asterisk ops space. Don't roll your own observability. Don't roll your own ops. It's a losing proposition. Leverage companies that are doing that, even if they don't meet 100% of your goals.
Seems to be a theme. Well, thank you, Howard. I think that's probably covered enough.
Yeah, I think that was good. And shockingly, we hit exactly 30 minutes.
There you go.
Which I don't think we've ever done before. So hopefully you all found this engaging. If you think we're wrong, we love your comments and we'd love to have you on the podcast. So the best way to do that is to like and subscribe. Reach out to John or I on LinkedIn. Again, I'm Howard Holton.
And I'm John Collins.
And this has been The Good, The Bad, and The Techy. We'll see you next week.